Hi students, welcome to lesson number 21 on interview method. The introduction. Data collection is a difficult and yet very important part in survey research. Each data collection method has its own complexities as well as advantages and limitations. We cannot say which method is the best out of them. Each method should be seen in relation to the type of research to be conducted and more particularly the research problem to be investigated. Interviewing is seen as one of the important data collection instruments. In research, the question arises how one can gain access to data required. One can access it through documents or visiting places like institutions, organizations, workplaces or through questionnaires and interviews. Before selecting the method, the researcher must know and finalize the target population, the questions to be asked, the schedule to be drafted. Because these tools help us to generate empirical data which will yield qualitative as well as quantifiable results. And the objectives for these lessons are that the students will be able to understand the role of interview method in survey research. They can know the types of interviews used for data collection. They can visualize the advantages and disadvantages of interview method as a tool of data collection. Now, we will understand the meaning and definitions of interviewing. The interview methodology is one of the oldest of the research methodologies. An interview is a direct conversation between the researcher and the subject. It takes place through a process in which the subject is asked a series of questions to which they are free to respond as they wish. There is no ideal answer to a question. This method is useful in the collection of data, revealing the values, experiences, perspectives and views of the population under study. It is different from survey interviews in the sense they are less structured. Although the interviewer must be ready with a specific set of questions to be asked, it is not necessary that they ask it in a particular order. An interview can be flexible and continuous rather than being rigidly structured. Now, we will try to understand the various definitions given by various thinkers. According to Newman in the year 1991, the interview is a short-term secondary social interaction between two strangers with the explicit purpose of one person's obtaining specific information from the other. Information is obtained in a structured conversation in which the interviewer asks pre-arranged questions and records answers and respondent answer. According to Krishna Kumar, he says that interviewing is a process of personal interaction between a researcher and a respondent. Ranjit Kumar in his book Research Methodology opined that any person-to-person interaction between two or more individuals with a specific purpose in mind is called interview. O'Leary of the view that interviewing, a method of data collection which involves researcher asking respondents basically open-ended questions. Thus, in simple words, we can say that interviewing is a face-to-face interaction with the respondent to get specific information. The questions may be pre-decided. Invariably, it is seen that for data collection, the interview method includes only open-ended questions. Interviewing as a method of data collection is not just easy. You may think that it involves only jotting down questions and recording the answer. O'Leary has suggested that the complexities may arise due to people or the target population you interview, and secondly due to complexities of communication. People are complex, complicated, or maybe introvert. There is no doubt about this. Getting proper answers without annoying them is a difficult task. If the interviewee and interviewer have some understanding, gathering data is assured. If there is no chemistry between them, it may hamper the interview process. Now, the basic objective of interviewing. Interview has two basic objectives. One, it is discovery, and second one, it is measurement. Under discovery, it indicates that gaining new knowledge, new consciousness, or new enlightenment of certain unexplored qualitative aspect of the problem, which is a primary objective of the interview. One can interview all the members of a group or community, or all the persons selected under sample, or only some selected persons. In specific type of problems, there is no need of interviewing all informants of the community or the units of the sample. Interviewing few experienced people may provide sufficient information. Example, a labor leader or an inspection can give sufficient information in relation to problems faced by both laborers and administrative personnel in running of a factory. Interview method helps in identifying new variables and sharpening of conceptual clarity. Interview also gives something more than pure statistical descriptions achieved through mail surveys. While statistical studies and descriptions tells us as to what percentage of people from which class are in favor of a given topic. The interview method, on the other hand, provides us with additional qualitative description of the people, how they feel and why they do so. This method also enhances the understanding of sociological nature of the facts. Second objective is measurement, and it is a major objective of the interview. Often in one project we find both the objectives, discovery and measurements. But as more emphasis is placed upon one objective, the other one is subordinated. Usually the research work in which measurement is a predominating objective, scheduled interviews are used. But in several situations, non-scheduled interviews provide more valid measurements. Now we will understand the process of the interview methodology, and it involves first one, choosing a topic, and it is the first step requiring the researcher to identify a specific area of interest, try to describe the problems in the area and ask questions to himself regarding it. Second process is research on existing knowledge. That is, the researcher then tries to gain as much information as possible by referring to existing knowledge in the area of the topic. Studying the various sources, understanding and reviewing them helps in building knowledgeable on the topic and sharpen focus on the research questions. Third process is planning. Planning the interview process involves answering numerous questions such as the number of people to be interviewed, the place of taking the interview, the demographic characteristics of the subject, finding the participants, the ethical consideration to be accounted, and so on. Fourth process is designing the interview schedule. The interview schedule consists of list of questions or topic areas that the interviewer wishes to ask or cover during the interview. This has to be prepared irrespective of whether the interview is structured or unstructured. Fifth process is conducting the interview. The researcher may ask questions according to the interview schedule formally or even ask open-ended follow-up questions to the participant informally. The interview may be recorded either manually or through recorders. Sixth process is transcribing the data. It is a process of writing down the conversation that composed the interview, and this helps in familiarizing intimately with the data, which further helps in analyzing it. Seventh process is analyzing the data. The collected data is analyzed by the researcher to draw up conclusions for the research hypothesis. And the eighth process is verifying the result. The researcher may verify the validity and reliability of the collected data by cross-checking with other sources. And the ninth process is reporting the results. The research is completed only when it is reported, that is, written, presented or published through media. Now, we will understand the different types of interviews, and the types of interviews to be chosen definitely depend upon research topic, purpose of research and population under study. And the first type is structured interview. During structured interview, the interviewer asks the pre-drafted questions. Here, he or she cannot change the questions or their sequence. No freedom is given to add new questions or delete any questions. The interviewer is strictly instructed to ask the pre-decided questions in verbatim and also to record them. The interview schedule is prepared in advance. It contains open-ended as well as close-ended questions. The question schedule may be given to the interviewee in advance so that he or she can prepare the answers. There is a difference between interviewing and interview schedule. Ranjit Kumar suggested that interview schedule is a tool to collect data while interviewing is a process method of data collection. As compared to unstructured interview, this type generates uniform data. It does not need any professional skill to conduct interview sessions because of listed questions. It is required from interviewer that he or she should remain unbiased. The interviewer can be biased in the case of unstructured interview. The interviewer is supposed to give only clarifications on and when it is desired. It is also said that it should restrict to only clarifications and no suggestions be given. This type of interview can be conducted person to person or through telephone or by using electronic device. Second type is unstructured interview method. During the interview, when the interviewer exercises autonomy in asking questions, whatever comes to his or her mind on a particular research problem under investigation is called unstructured interview. This type of interview can be conducted on one-to-one basis or with a group of interviewees. Unstructured interview may permit the interviewee to give responses freely or it may restrict free responses. Hence, the interviewer asks the respondents only such questions which comes under the area of research problem. There are no set typed questions. One question leads to another and so on. And the main aim of the interviewer is to get personal viewpoint of the respondents on a given topic. The interviewer should keep interview guide / schedule with him or her at the time of the interview. It helps him her to know the areas to be covered and it also provides guidelines for smooth conduct of interview sessions. Interviewer is free to ask additional questions and also repeat or delete questions as mentioned in the guide. If he or she feels some questions are not very clear, he or she can exercise full freedom to change or reward it. At the time of the interview, if it is felt that putting certain questions or changing the sequence may yield some useful results, interviewer can do it freely. On the respondent sides, they are given opportunity to give their views, opinions freely on the questions asked. An effort can be made during interview to encourage them to speak freely. This flexibility helps generating spontaneous, useful responses on the area of research. Unstructured interview is easy to conduct but difficult to analyze the results. Reason is that no two interviews reveal same type of responses. On the same question, you may get different responses. This type of interview calls for sufficient knowledge, background, good interviewing skills, command on language and ability to convince the respondent to answer. So, this type of interview demands specialized training to be imparted to the interviewer to get best results. Unstructured interview is also called in-depth interview. It is also said that this type of interview is best suited to those situations where very little is known. Such interviews aim to elicit information from the respondents which otherwise may not be procured. Depth interviews are designed to discover underlying motives and desires and are often used in motivational research. Such interviews are held to explore needs, desires and feelings of the respondents. Depth interviews can be projective or non-projective in nature. Projective depth interview includes such type of indirect questions which are related to interviewee's behavior, attitude towards the subject of study. Both types of depth interviews can generate data which may be useful in understanding the behavioral attitude of people under study. Third type is focused interview. Focused interview is conducted basically to get focused, in-depth information on any given issue from the respondent. It is one of the types of unstructured interview. The main task of the researcher in such type of interview is to involve the respondent in the discussion on specific topic so that the researcher gets desired information. Here the interviewer has the freedom to decide the questions and their sequence. Here the interviewer is not only properly informed about the area of research, but he or she also be knowledgeable and skilled to get required information from the experiences, background of the respondent which has a direct bearing on the topic under study. The selection of respondent is done on the basis of knowledge, experiences of the respondent on the area of the study. Another method is non-directive interview. Interviewer in this type of interview acts like a catalyst. He or she prompts the respondent to give information on the topic under investigation. Like in focused interview, your questioning is very less, but the areas to be covered remains under the control of the interviewer. He or she is supposed to give free environment to the respondent so that they can express their views freely and to the point. The interviewer simply supports the views expressed by the respondent instead of approving of or disapproving them. Another type is clinical interview. This type of interview also comes under the category of unstructured interview, and this type of interview has been used in social care work, counseling and prison setting, and is also called personal history interview. This type covers basically the feelings, life experiences of the respondents. The interviewer has a freedom to interact freely with the respondent to elicit the information on the given topic. This type of interview is flexible and it includes introductory questions as well. Here the respondents can also give new information on related factors and elaborate on them, and it may prove very helpful in predicting, analyzing and concluding on some areas. The area under investigation, its objectives, scope are the main determinants of selection of questions and area to be covered in the clinical interview. Another type is telephonic interview. As the name suggests, this type of interview is conducted on phone. You need a telephonic connection and an instrument, a phone directory and a set of questions to be asked. It is best suited for market type of survey, polls, etc. And the main advantage of this type of method is to get data very fast without wasting time on visiting the respondents. It does not require special skills to conduct the interview session. Telephone interview is a faster and cheaper method for obtaining information. Extra staff, that is field staff, is not required in this method. Moreover, it is very flexible in comparison with mailed questionnaire method. Non-response percentage is very low in telephone interview. On the other hand, long distance calls, number of calls, length of call time adds to its cost. There is a possibility of many respondents not having a connection. The voice quality or the connectivity may also pose problems. For short conversation, it may be ideal, but lengthy conversation may not be liked by the respondents. It is very difficult to find out doubtful information provided by the respondent. Like mail questionnaire, the personal touch will be missing in this type of interview also. If respondents do not wish to talk to the interviewer or do not cooperate, it may turn a disaster for the researcher. Another new type is computer assisted telephone interviewing, that is CATI system. The increasing use of information technology has changed the traditional scenario of conducting surveys. It has definitely eased the efforts and enhanced the quality of research with minimizing time. Now you can see that software companies have introduced many software programs to facilitate data collection, analysis and many other things. Some of them are mentioned here for your information sake as well. They are CAPI or Computer Assisted Personal Interviewing, CATI Computer Assisted Telephone Interviewing, ACASI, that is Audio Computer Assisted Self Interviewing, WIN-CATI system, WIN-CATI mixed mode and Census Web and many more to cite here. CATI system is used to conduct telephone interview to gather data from number of respondents scattered all over the world. In these systems, computers are used to automate the activities done in the formal interviewing. In simple words, computers are used to conduct surveys. They keep control of questions, data, data entry and data analysis. It can also facilitate the status of the study whenever it is required. It also helps in interview administration and monitoring. The system requires PC which is linked to network to server where data can be stored centrally. Telephone headset and of course set of questions to be asked and telephone numbers of the respondents are required in this system also. Interviewer sits facing the computer screen, reads the questions and simply record by keying the responses. Now, we will try to understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of interview method. The advantages are, there are some kind of information which are virtually impossible to be obtained by any other means. Example, person's past experience, his anticipated future behavior, etc. Such information can be obtained only by asking for verbal report from persons concerned. A second advantage is the direction involved. As long as researcher is assured that the respondents do not distort their description of attitude and perception, the interview method is the most simple, direct and valid approach to use. Third, the interviewers can modify the situation whenever necessary. He can clear up a misunderstanding about a question and keep the respondent on the track of providing only essential informations. Now, the disadvantages of interview method. No method is foolproof. There are some inherent weaknesses, Limitations associated with the method. Some of them are as it is a very time consuming as well as very expensive method, especially when the target population is big in number and widely spread over a geographical area. Second, there is a possibility of bias analysis, interpretation from the side of researcher or interviewee. Biased reaction can also be received from the interviewee. Age, class, race, gender, social status can play a crucial role in generating biased opinions from both the sides. Biased reactions, analysis and interpretation can hamper proper research results. If the interviewer and the researcher is not skilled, trained in the art, he or she may not be able to conduct successful interview session with proper control. Next, there is a possibility if majority of the target population consists high and top level management groups, executives, therefore, this method may not prove approachable to such clientele. So, getting information from such people is not under the control of interviewer. Proper training selection and supervision of the interviewer are very essential to this method. Getting free, frank responses from the target population is not an easy task. Establishing proper rapport with the target group is very difficult requirement. Information received from this method is difficult to analyze. Same set of questions may receive diverse responses. Interview method may call for some errors which are difficult to eliminate. And the use of computers in data collection has its own set of limitations. Infrastructure connectivity, knowledge to approach such systems are some of the essential requirements. Without them, the system may not run. Interviews vary in form and purpose. Each type has its own advantages and limitations. In this lesson, we have understood interviewing as a tool of data collection. This method can be useful when it is combined with questionnaire, observation, case study method, and especially in user studies will definitely add qualitative analysis to the interpretation of results. Interviewing is one of the methods of getting data under primary sources. Each method of data collection has its own merits and demerits, and the success of interviewing method is dependent upon the target population, trained and skilled and knowledgeable interviewer. Like other method, this method also cannot generate 100% accurate results. Thank you.